Ones tried to encourage the rest to undertake it. Others were more timid, objected to it, alleging much that was neither unreasonable nor improbable. They argued that it was so big of an undertaking that it was open to the inconceivable perils and dangers. Besides the casualties of the seas, they asserted the length of the voyage was such that the women and other weak persons, worn out with age and travail, could never survive it. Even if they should, they contended that the miseries which they would be exposed to in such a country would be too hard to endure. They would be liable to famine and nakedness and want. The change of air, diet, and water would affect them with sickness and disease. Again, all those who surmounted these difficulties would remain in continual danger from the savages, who were cruel, barbarous, treacherous, furious in their rage, and merciless when they get the upper hand, not content to kill. The savages delight in tormenting people in the most bloody manner possible, flaying some alive with the shells of fishes, cutting off the members and joints of others piecemeal, broiling them on coals and eating collops of their flesh in their sight while they still live, with other cruelties too horrible to be related. It was replied that all great and honorable actions are accompanied with great difficulties and must be both met and overcome with answerable courage. It was granted the dangers were great, but not desperate. The difficulties were many, but not invincible, for many of the things feared might never befall. Others, by provident care and the use of good means, might in a great measure be prevented. And all of them, through the help of God and fortitude and patience, might either be borne or overcome. True, it was that such attempts were not to be taken without good ground and reason, rashly or lightly, or as many had done, for curiosity or hope of gain. But their condition was not ordinary. Their ends were good and honorable, their calling lawful and urgent. Therefore, they might expect the blessing of God on their proceedings. Yea, though they should lose their lives in this action, yet might they have the comfort of knowing that their endeavor was worthy. After many other such things had been alleged on both sides, it was fully decided by the majority to undertake the enterprise and to prosecute it by the best means that they could. The time having come when they must depart from Leyden. So they left that good and pleasant city, which had been their resting place for nearly 12 years. But they knew they were pilgrims and lifted up their eyes to the heavens, their dearest country, and quieted their spirits. When they came to the place, they found the ship and everything ready, and such of their friends as could not come with them followed them. And several came from Amsterdam to see them shipped, to take leave of them. That night there was little sleep for most of them. It was spent in friendly entertainment and Christian discourse and other real expressions of true Christian love. The next day, the wind being fair, they went aboard, and their friends with them. What sighs and sobs and prayers rose from amongst them. What tears gushed from every eye. Many of the Dutch strangers who stood on the quay as spectators could not refrain from tears. Yet It was comfortable and sweet to see such lively and true expressions of dear and unfeigned love. But the tide which stays no man called them away, though loth to depart, and their reverend pastor falling on his knees, and all with him and with watery cheeks commended them with the most fervent prayers to the Lord and to his blessings. Then with mutual embraces and many tears, they took their leave of one another, which proved to be the last leave for many of them. Ah, the Mayflower, the ship. The ship had never carried passengers before. She was a freighter, rather old and tired after more than 14 years of running taffeta and satins from Hamburg, hats and hemp from Norway, wine and cognac from France. Thanks to the wine, she was called a sweet ship. Her hold full of pleasant odors, in contrast to the foul fumes that rose from similar ships of the day. Otherwise, riding high beside her dock at Redriff on the Thames after discharging a cargo of wine from Rochelle, France on May 15, 1620, she was no different from hundreds of other square riggers in this bustling section of the London port. Some interesting facts about the Mayflower. She was a square rigger cargo ship, 90 feet long, 26 feet wide. Not made to carry passengers, as was overcrowded because she took on passengers from the leaky Speedwell. They did not have enough sleeping space. There were 134 passengers on board. Master Christopher Jones and his crew of 30 sailors, 102 passengers comprised of saints and strangers, 35 were saints or pilgrims, 34 were children. The remainder were strangers, men going to the New World for adventure or because they could not find work in England. There was one doctor, one soldier, one shoemaker, one blacksmith, and one cooper on board. Most were farmers, shopkeepers, and weavers. One baby born on the voyage was named Oshas Hopkins. There was furniture and household furnishings, books, animals, guns and armor, tools, building supplies, food for a 2-month journey plus food for the New World, casks of beer, wine and water, seeds for planting the new crop. The Mayflower set sail on September the 6th, 1620. She arrived in the New World on November 9th, 1620. The Mayflower returned to England on April 5th, 1621, although none of the pilgrims returned to England. About the voyage, it was dangerous for one small ship to sail the Atlantic alone. It took 66 days, twice as long as Christopher Columbus's voyage. Incidents: the main beam cracked in an Atlantic Ocean storm. Large screw which the pilgrims had brought was used to keep the beam in place. One man swept off the deck in the storm, but he was saved. These troubles being over, and all being together in one ship, they put to sea again on September the 6th, with a prosperous wind which continued for several days and was some encouragement to them, though, as usual, many were afflicted with seasickness. There was an insolent and very profane young man, one of the sailors, which made him the more overbearing, who was always harassing the poor people in their sickness and cursing them daily with grievous curses. Did not hesitate to tell them he hoped to help throw half of them overboard before they came to the journey's end.